everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of October 15th through the 22nd, 2023. I got to do a little bit of a check-in. How is everybody doing? How are you guys doing post-eclipse? We're still feeling it today, so I just want to make sure everybody's doing okay. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what happened for the eclipse for you. Was it intense as much as it looked? I would assume so. All right, well, I'm titling this video, Them's Fighting Words. I was like laughing to myself as I was creating the notes for this the other day, and I was just like, there's so much confrontation and there's some really intense communication themes that are going to be coming up for you guys just after this eclipse. So yeah, them's fighting words. Make sure you're subscribed so you can follow along with these videos and some of the transits that are going on throughout the week. I'll be breaking these down as we kind of get into it to help you better navigate these times. As many of you guys know, we're now in between eclipses. So we just had that solar eclipse in Libra. We're kind of just coming off of it this morning, and I'll talk to you guys about that. But in 2 weeks' time, we will have another eclipse. It'll be a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So even while we're in between eclipses, things are a bit wild. It's kind of like a wild card period. Anything goes. So yeah, just expect that the change is just going to keep rolling. You guys can join me here this Friday night. I'll be doing live tarot readings on the channel. Don't forget to check the community tab. I'll be posting that on Thursday. So if you want to sign up in advance and get a reading, I'll be conducting donation-based readings there. And you guys can get a check-in with me if you have some questions. All right, so themes for this week. Obviously coming off of the solar eclipse and a very intense cardinal square is going to be building later at the end of this week. So it's not just planets conjunct the South Node. It's not just planets square Pluto. It's the fact that we are seeing so many aspects that are getting triggered. That's bringing up this eclipse point again. So I'm going to take you guys through that and show you how that's going to be building, creating some rather challenging dynamics for communication. Then after that, we're going to see Mercury enter into the sign of Scorpio. So Mercury is going to change signs. Mercury and Mars are going to be in the same sign, and a very passionate, intense sign at that, which is why I'm calling it them's fighting words. And before that happens, we're also going to see Mercury reactivate the eclipse point that we had at 21 Libra. And we're going to see that there's going to be a Cazimi. So like there's just so much stuff going on this week. But just know that quite a bit of Mercury aspects are going to be taking place. And Mercury deals with communication. So we might find that some missing document turns up, or there is some secret kind of conversation that becomes revealed. Some data drop might happen. And I think it's going to be rather challenging because we're going to see a lot of power dynamics coming up with these communication issues. So if you happen to be a Gemini, Virgo, or Libra rising, you're really feeling these transits this week because it's impacting you pretty directly. But equally, those of you guys who have planets in the last decan of the cardinal signs, so Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, you're also feeling a little bit of the crunch. So let's kind of go through the week. Let's take a look and see what we got going on here. Those of you guys who are watching on Sunday, happy Sunday. Hi to all of my Sunday crew people. You guys are always first ones on the scene of these videos, leaving comments and drinking your coffee. I appreciate your support. So we're waking up this morning, and the truth is this is the fallout from the eclipse. Finally, we're going to see early in the morning. So if you're an early bird, the moon is leaving Libra. So it's now starting to kind of break away from that solar eclipse. If you guys didn't know or you didn't see it, I know it's very visible in some parts of the United States. This was a South Node eclipse, a solar eclipse in Libra, which is action-packed. It's about setting new intentions. But conjunct the South Node, it's a little bit of having to look at the past before we move forward. The themes of this are letting go, believe it or not, and what we need to kind of let go before we're able to move forward in some of our relationships, Lots of karma in relationships, which means, yes, there can be drama, there can be breakups. We can see that stuff happening. But eclipses take time to unfold. And for many of us, we may not really see it start to be revealed until closer to the spring of next year. Now, if you happen to be a Libra sun, moon, or rising, you know, you're feeling this pretty strongly. This is definitely very personal for you, so you can still be kind of feeling the effects of this throughout this next week. Equally, because it was at 21 degrees, if you have any planets 19 to, let's say, like 23 degrees of the cardinal signs, you're also feeling this. So through an opposition if you're Aries, or a square if you're in Cancer or Capricorn, and it's creating kind of pressure outside of you. Check out the horoscopes or the video that I did on the solar eclipse if you want more information on that. I go in deep. But we wake up in the morning and the moon leaves Libra, so it's like moving away. We're moving away from the last couple of days of the intensity. However, the moon made one last aspect before it did. It came into a square with Pluto. So likely there was drama yesterday on Saturday that's still kind of bleeding into this morning. We know that when the moon squares Pluto, we're dealing with feeling the pressure emotionally of needing to relieve some kind of like toxic situation. The moon being in Libra has been highlighting relationships, partnerships, balance, diplomacy, fairness. And the truth is like, we haven't been feeling that this week, right? We haven't been feeling that. I think I speak for everybody with, you know, the conjunctions to the South Node. We're recognizing, wow, this one, you know, person that I thought always had my back, or this certain group, or this certain area of my life that's always been my kind of counterbalance, it's not there, right? I'm not finding it. And we've seen a lot of oppositions also to Chiron. So there's been some wounding coming up revolving around who does and doesn't have our back. So now that we have the moon leaving Libra, yes, we're falling out of some of that trauma drama, and we're able to recover from the eclipse. But the moon is not as happy in Scorpio. It's moving through a sign that deals with, you know, intensity and fear and transition and transformation and letting go. So the moon immediately starts coming into a trine with Saturn in Pisces, which can be about releasing and dissolving and transmuting something. Very emotional, right? I mean, many of you guys are going to wake up this morning and be like, why am I in such a mood? What's going on? Why am I agitated? Get in water, right? Like sit in a pool, sit in a tub, get hydrated, do something to be able to work with the element of water so you can kind of help neutralize some of these emotions and feelings. This is also very much like about flushing out toxins. Now, the moon will also come into conjunction with Mars. Moon-Mars contacts can be challenging because it does kind of indicate that collectively we are fighting or agitated or on edge, or we're feeling more competitive or combative. Now, unless you happen to be like a natal Mars in Scorpio, this can be a little bit more of a challenging energy for you. It does kind of indicate that you are taking action. And Scorpio is a fixed sign. It's a water sign. So we're taking action. And for me, this is like survival skills. This is definitely about, you know, defense, self-defense, psychic defense, emotional defenses. So just be mindful that there's gonna be some moods this morning. So some of you guys are already seeing it. But the moon is a quick moving transit. So we're gonna see as the morning progresses, the moon is crossing Mars, and then it's gonna start separating around about the afternoon. But yeah, watch for that early AM kind of, you know, challenging dynamic. All right, so then we're going to be seeing the moon continue through the sign of Scorpio throughout the day. Not much else is going to be taking place outside of this. That's really the only big transit that caught my eye. So now this is going to take us into Monday the 16th. And as we wake up in the morning, the moon is still in the sign of Scorpio, and it has been in opposition to Jupiter. So big feelings, big reactions, right? Something about this makes me feel like this is definitely going to be big news on the financial levels, because moon in Scorpio is like how everybody is responding or reacting in a fear manner. And the opposition to Jupiter in Taurus, this is about wealth, banking, food, and resources. I noticed that the moon's also going to be in conjunction to Ceres. So it is possible that we're, dealing with grief. We're dealing with some kind of like loss or separation. There's people who are reflecting on potential fears revolving around having to give something or someone up. That has been the name of the game ever since we saw Venus come into opposition with Saturn. We've been realizing that we have to kind of release or let go of things that are not supporting our emotional well-being or our health. Anyway, so you're going to notice that there's just going to be more themes revolving around what we're losing or what we're letting go of. And I'm also watching the sun starting to build into a conjunction with the South Node. Not taking place this day, but still it's worth kind of mentioning that, this is going to be asking some people to reflect on, turning something loose. Now, after that opposition, we're then going to start seeing the moon come into a quincunx or an inconjunct with Chiron, as well as the North Node. And so this is worth mentioning because the North Node is talking about what direction we're supposed to be going in. Chiron talks about what we're supposed to be healing. It is possible that we are trying to reconcile something with the inconjunct. And I think this is about trying to kind of like release or let go of something, and maybe the fears that we have revolving around change. You guys will see more of this when Scorpio season begins and we start to see planets really move into Scorpio. My advice is observe what's going on the afternoon of the 16th, because the moon coming into the inconjunct with Chiron is going to represent where we are unwilling or afraid to look at certain problems within ourselves. And we're also going to see it in conjunct its own North Node. Now, what's helpful is that Mars is in Scorpio. So if you guys caught that video that I did this last week, I talk a lot about how Mars going through Scorpio is about giving us the courage to be able to change something. And I think that's going to be about doing the work emotionally deep within ourselves before we're able to really start to see it physically manifest out in the world. Maybe in Capricorn season, and when Mars gets into Capricorn, we're really starting to see that kind of, physically. But right now, it's spiritually, it's hidden, it's deep within ourselves, and it might even be subconscious. Now, later in the day, we're going to see Mercury hit 21 degrees. So this is just the eclipse that just keeps on giving. Mercury will be hitting in the PM hours 21 degrees, and it's reactivating the eclipse that we just had a few days ago. So if you guys saw my video, I talk about how the eclipse is so complex because it's conjunct the South Node, it's conjunct Mercury. Mercury Cazimi is just after the eclipse this week. So it's like there's still information pertaining to the events revolving around the eclipse that is still yet to kind of come out into the world. Remember, Mercury represents messages, communications, documents, data, systems. And all of this being in Libra, I think is quite literally like our rights, our freedom, our liberties, because Libra can be about the justice system and things revolving around like communication. All of these planets coming into a square with Pluto represents where people are starting to kind of make big decisions about who they're partnering with, or who they're in relationships with, or who they're collaborating with, or who their lawyers are, or who their support systems are, because of the squares to Pluto. And it's representing like where some people are banding together to say, you know what, let's put our differences aside. Let's go after the bad guys out in the world, because whatever is going on, what decisions are being made affect both of us. But you might also see this in relationships as well. It's like being like, let's put our problems aside. Let's go after this long-standing issue that we've both been kind of dealing with and tackle it together. So there is room for diplomacy. There is room to be able to form alliances. And with the South Node being there, it can be about reflecting on the past and where we had division in the past, it didn't work. And it's giving us the opportunity to undo the tendency to do that. The challenge is that I think Pluto, now wide awake in the sign of Capricorn, does not want this. It feels threatened by this, right? Unity is threatening to power and control and manipulation. We're seeing this out in the world where there's multiple wars going on right now. There's a lot of chaos and a lot of division, but the opportunity in this is not allowing ourselves to get distracted and divided. If we're doing that, then it's not going to give us the capabilities of being able to kind of like tackle, the monster. Think of this as like Scooby-Doo. everybody's starting to realize who the bad guy is, and it takes a team to be able to kind of unmask them to the world. Anyway, so the Cazimi moment is when the sun is coming into conjunction, with Mercury, and Mercury is relaying a message to a king, to a ruler, all conjunct the South Node. So pay attention to what happened during the eclipse that we just had. I think it was, Friday, Saturday. Pay attention to that eclipse. Some information is still coming out about that. So it makes me feel like globally, it'll take a couple of days for this information to kind of like hit the mainstream or become, worldwide. And I do think it can be about communication outages. I do think it can be about where there's like blackouts going on in certain areas or certain media coverage that is not covering events that need to be covered. I know this is not news to you, but we might hear something about this. And also like where the media is starting to kind of team up and be like, this is not like working. Like, this is not fair if you're covering some journalists, but not others. And so you'll see some really significant unions that might come from this to be able to kind of get recognition and get the word out. I'm really looking forward to some really big collaborations. I think that's what's potentially going to come from this. Okay, so then later in the day, we're going to start to see the moon come into an opposition with Uranus. This is the evening. A little emotionally destabilized. It's early, so actually we may not quite see it, but emotionally destabilizing overnight. And then we get into the 17th on Tuesday. And the moon in Scorpio is going to start coming into a trine with Neptune in the early morning, which is like, there's going to be like lots of, I think we're going to see like lots of like secret motivations and people who are doing like research or doing digging or doing investigative work with Mars in Scorpio. So I'm curious to see what Moon trine Neptune starts to bring up, because it can mean that somebody's like, oh, I followed my hunch and like I found this thing. When the moon is in contact with Neptune, it's about secret worlds and spirituality and intuition and dreams. So I do wonder if there's some information that's getting ready to kind of be like uncovered, and it's because, people are following their hunches. Then we're going to see the moon sextile Pluto. So this is happening really early in the morning. The truth is that the vibe changes quite a bit as soon as the moon gets into Sagittarius. So then we're looking at Jupiter. And when the moon's in Sag, it immediately comes into a square with Saturn. So this tells me that, kind of like later in the afternoon, there can be some scheduling issues, some hangups, some delays, some communication issues. There can also be like some significant changes with world events, because Sagittarius does deal with global events, as does Pisces. But I think that this is just more about beliefs, philosophy, right? We've got a lot of planets in mutable signs. So this is why I think we're hearing so much out in the world about religious conflict and cultural conflict and divide. These are topics that are very much covered under Pisces and Sagittarius. And when they're in squares, it becomes a little bit more inflamed. So I do think that you're going to hear a little bit of this on the 17th. It is setting up also to kind of come into a square with Venus in Virgo, so it's very likely going to manifest as a quick moving but a mutable T-square, with the moon being the focal point between Saturn and Pisces, which represents collective limitations. This is also about religion and spirituality and what goes on behind the scenes. And Venus in Virgo represents servants and helpers and people who help heal and protect and like kind of, clean or tend to things. So the moon's going to be the focal point of this square. If you're a mutable, sign, the first 10 degrees or so, you're going to feel this a little bit more strongly. And this is also when we're starting to see the sun building into a conjunction with the South Node. It does look like this will be happening very early in the morning on the 18th. This is Wednesday. And it will be meeting at 24 degrees of Libra. Well, we know that the South Node represents like a weakening, right? It can be about the past and what's familiar. So, generally it can be about where we're reflecting on past relationships, and we're reflecting also on people and situations socially from the past. But Libra is a sign that's also intellectual. It's an air sign, so it can be like reflecting on decisions that past leaders have made. The sun being leaders, and it can be about kings. It can be about prestigious people in government, and reflecting on decisions they've made or things that they have said. I've thought for some time that this combination plus the square to Pluto may potentially manifest as the beginning process of a leader stepping down somewhere in the world. In theory, we may have to wait until this eclipse completes, so it can take a little bit longer until we get into like spring of next year, but you might start seeing the beginning process of it happening this week with that square. Anyway, when the sun's conjunct the south node and the dispositor is Venus, right? Venus rules Libra. We're realizing that it's challenging to maintain some relationships. It may be challenging for some allies to stay allies, for some partnerships to stay partnered, because there is something inherently not in balance, or there is something where there is some kind of conflict in regards to their beliefs. So I think that you're going to see that coming up with that conjunction. If you happen to be a Libra, sun, moon, or rising, anywhere around 20, like let's say 22 to 26 degrees, this is going to be more prominent for you because it represents a releasing and a letting go. Okay, so then we're going to see, then Mercury will conjunct the south node at 24. So it's setting up for both of them to conjunct the south node. And then we're going to see the Cazimi that will happen on, it'll eventually be on Friday. So there's that conjunction. That's taking us into the evening. Very interesting. What is 25? What's the 25th Sabian? I know we're gonna read 26 as well, but okay, so I'm reading 25 because we're rounding up to 25 because the south node is at 24. For those of you guys who are like, what is she doing? So I'm gonna read 25. All right, 25 Libra, information in the symbol of an autumn leaf. Theme is revelation. The symbol speaks to the imagination, to an ability to understand the subtle messages in all things and events through a sensitivity to pattern. The image of information in the symbol of an autumn leaf emphasizes the importance of observation and paying attention to details. The suggestion here is that intelligence is basically the capacity to understand how things can be used to achieve the desired ends and benefit the self and others. The emphasis in this degree is on understanding the mutual and necessary interdependence of man and his world. At its highest, it represents adaptability, intuition, natural ability to see beyond the surface of appearances and comprehend the ultimate meaning and purpose of things. An unwavering commitment to the highest good in all situations. Watch for a tendency to get lost in inconsequential detail or lose perspective in foolish flights of fancy. The accent is on interpretation, translating information from one medium or language to another that may require your time and attention. Your greatest advantage lies in focusing on your objective and being diplomatic and getting your message across. Guard against believing something is too difficult to understand and is more important and has more value. Avoid confusing others with irrelevant details or talking about things they can't relate to or have no interest in. Stepping stones are meaning, significance, revelation, message, sensitiveness, intuition, understanding, secret codes. Okay, so just to be really honest with you guys, I've already seen some of this stuff kind of play out in the world, and this is my interpretation. You guys are going to see some stuff that's going to come out. I mean, it's already happening, but you're going to see some stuff out that's going to come out in the world that I believe is going to be in other languages. And you need to be really careful about just assuming that what is being said and translated on a video is what's actually being said. Equally, this is about recognizing and realizing and looking back at the relationships that certain people have, certain companies have, certain, government have, like certain people especially in the legal system or in like politics. because not everything is going to be what it seems, and you're going to have to either ask the right questions or do a little digging or connect the dots and see why there may be some intentional need to cause rifts or division within relationships, because it's going to give more power, Pluto and Capricorn, to particular like governments and institutions. Equally, I feel like this is going to be a period where it really benefits us to go deeper than just the surface, because Libra can be about the surface. It can be superficial. It's, oh, these two countries don't get along for this reason, and it's always been this way. And it's going deeper than that and being like, okay, but like, who's stroking the fires here? Why does it benefit certain countries to get involved? Why are they sending their military there? What are they gaining from it? And also looking at what countries are allies with other countries as you start to see these like little conflicts and wars begin to kind of break out, because there's a bigger piece to the puzzle here. Anyway, so ask questions, go deeper, pay attention to intuition and stuff that may be coming up. I would say that anyway, with planets conjunct the South Node, especially Mercury, it can feel like with Mercury and the Sun conjunct the South Node that we're like giving up any capabilities of being able to reason with other people and be fair and mediate. Like a lot of people are going to be like, I wash my hands of this situation. This person's not seeing my perspective. They're not agreeing with me. Like, screw it. And I caution you guys against just doing that, because we're going to see some relationships that will dissolve because people's inability to communicate and connect, and like the unwillingness to stay open-minded, and a lot of people just wanting to control stuff. That's basically the most simple way that I can put this, because there's so many planets coming into conjunction with the South Node square Pluto. All right, so then we're going to see on the 19th, the moon in Sagittarius is going to come into a square with Neptune, and this will be early in the morning. So there's like a little bit of like, you know, not being completely checked in, kind of being like heads in the cloud a little bit. Moon square Neptune sometimes has the inability to emotionally relate, or there can be an oversensitivity or overly capable of absorbing things from other people emotionally. But this can also create some challenges with travel and some challenges in regards to being able to communicate about belief systems and philosophy. And then we're going to see the moon shift into Capricorn, and that'll be in the evening. The Sun and Mercury conjunct at 26. They don't Cazimi yet, but they conjunct. And the moon goes into Capricorn early morning on the 20th. And here's the Cazimi. So for some of you guys, it may be a dream, okay? For other people, it might be the news that's breaking first thing in the morning on the 20th. Something I didn't really mention, and I wish I had, because I didn't really pick up on it and like catch it until this last week, but Mercury is moving through Libra, which is a Venusian sign, and Venus is moving through Virgo, which is a mercurial sign. So we've got mutual reception going on here between these two, all right? And it tells me that some of the relationship dynamics and the challenges and the diplomacy issues stem from not feeling supported. Venus in Virgo is like, I need more love, I need more support, or, you know, it's not healthy, it's not clean, it's not working, right? Because it can be about systems. So whether this is about job-related things, if this is about health-related things, you know, tending and services, I think a lot of people are kind of feeling a little bit abandoned with some of these conjunctions to the South Node. And I think Venus being the dispositor in a sign where it doesn't function as well is like, this relationship doesn't feel healthy, or, you know, this habit is no longer serving me. So there's like a sense of something that's kind of breaking down that maybe we used to be overly dependent on, right? Libra can be about where relationships become too codependent sometimes, or where we lose our identity in other people, or we give away sometimes our own needs because the sun is moving through a sign that it doesn't function as well in. Remember, the sun is about ego. So when it's in Libra, it's like hard to differentiate who we are versus our relationship to others. And so where there can be too much just saying, yeah, you know, if it's best for you, it's best for me, and people pleasing and just, you know, kind of giving some of our freedom away. So we're going to start to see where that doesn't serve us. And when the Cazimi happens, this will be at 26 degrees. So if you, once again, are a Gemini, Virgo, or Libra rising, especially if you have any personal planets around 24 to 28 degrees, pay attention. Cazimi moments are not unusual. We have a couple of them a year. This is always somewhere after or around a retrograde. So it just depends. In this case, this is after. And this is a seed that's being planted that will kind of unfold in about 6 to 8 weeks time. So what is Mercury? Communication. What is the sun? Ego and identity. And it also represents power and action. So there's something setting up here where there's some really prominent conversations about what? Partnership, balance, legality, relating to what? Health and services. I do feel like this is also where some people are starting to have conversations with partnerships of all kinds, friendships, relationships, business partners, clients, about what is and is not working. Because both of these are coming into perfecta square with Pluto, and that square will eventually be at 27 degrees, and that's a Gemini degree. I'm personally watching to see what goes down this week because I do feel like we're going to be hearing some really significant things about the future of communications, the future of content creation. I mean, I'm seeing it across the board with a lot of content creators that are either being given, strikes on YouTube, or they're being, told, hey, you can't say specific words, otherwise your account's kind of getting flagged and you're getting shadow banned. I'm seeing it with content creators that are having people unsubscribe. I'm seeing it on my channel, which is really disheartening. I know YouTube goes through and they'll wipe people if they consider them to be inactive subscribers. But all of my subscribers are organic. They are coming strictly only from people who are subscribing. I don't want to mess with the analytics. I don't want to do that. But it's disheartening for me as a creator to see that some platforms are making it very difficult to get your content seen if you want to tell the truth. If you want to talk about what's going on in the world, if you happen to say specific words or reference specific things that are going out in the media. I know that Pluto and Capricorn wants control, and at 27, they want control over the narrative of what's going on in the world. And so what you're going to see is that certain people aren't going to agree with that narrative, and they're going to challenge the status quo. And we're also going to see this play out legally, where we're seeing stuff in the UK. There's definitely stuff going on in Canada, where content creators and journalists are having to register to be able to create content. It's essentially the end of the free press. That's what you're seeing in some of these places. Because if somebody was genuinely an independent, journalist or an independent media, it isn't dictated or controlled by certain, politicians, or it shouldn't be. And so that we're kind of coming into like some concerning or some dangerous times. Now you guys know why I recommended the book 1984 on my Amazon list. If you guys remember watching that book, and like the main character who's involved basically, going and striking certain things from the narrative of the story, so it cannot be referenced upon. That's kind of what I think we're seeing now. There is definitely an attack on being able to put some information out. Why? Because if the true information comes out, it does give the potential for unity, for diplomacy, for mediation, right? Libra. And it can make people look around and go like, oh shit, like this is affecting me and it's affecting you. It's not me versus you, it's us versus the world. And that's really how we want to look at relationships right now, that whether it's your therapist, or if it's your best friend, or if it's your spouse, it's really you guys against the world. You cannot be divided right now. And there's going to be a lot of emphasis on stirring the pot this week and creating division. So watch when this Cazimi happens at 26 degrees, because what is happening is we're starting to realize like where we're not getting the information, we're not having the communications or the connections that we need to have to better what? Provide for better health, Venus in Virgo, to clean up certain systems, to provide for people who are in need, to be able to help people. We're getting so kind of caught up in what's going on with strife all over the world, which granted, I understand it's horrible, right? But we have to be looking out for our own right now. That's what the North Node in Aries is about. So if you happen to live in another country, I would hope that even though you may have roots or heritage to some of these places where we're seeing war, that you're looking out for your own. You're looking out for you, your family, right? Your partners, your kids. You're looking out for your city, your community, your country. Not necessarily what's going on in other parts of the world, because if we get sucked into that, we are going to lose track of what's going on in our current and everyday communities. That's a problem. Part of what the North Node in Aries is about is being able to tap into knowing what we instinctually need to protect. If Mars is going into Scorpio, it's saying, pay attention to your intuition, pay attention to what these little feelings kind of tell you, or, where you're more kind of picking up on danger, or where you're more kind of picking up on conflict, and like steering clear of that. But also Mars in Scorpio is intelligent. It does know how to handle conflict, and it does it in a way where if it's provoked, it will bite back. So Scorpio is also about survival. I told you guys, if you saw my video that I did like a year ago when I was talking about the North Node going into Aries, I said the biggest thing that people are going to be focusing on in 2023 and 2024 is going to be self-defense. It's going to be self and home protection. I think you guys know what I'm saying. And it's also going to be about action revolving around like military. What are we seeing, right? So now that Mars goes into Scorpio, some people might be looking around being like, ooh, what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to know how to defend yourself. And whether that means that you're getting in shape, or it means that you're learning about self-defense, or you're learning about home defense, or you're also learning how to protect other things. Assets is a huge theme, because we're going to see Mars coming into opposition with planets in Taurus. So it's going to be how you're protecting your money. Are you moving money into different accounts? Are you investing in things? Are you buying metals? That's definitely going to come up. We're going to see more about financial protection as well. And security also, because I think that we're going to see some issues with security breaches. To me, this Sun-Mercury conjunction, square Pluto, is also screaming security breach. Because I do feel like there can be some things that people are saying that's being exposed about who they're behind the scenes supporting, or they might say that they're in support of, a country or a company or a person, and then it's exposed like, actually, no, they're the ones, causing problems. So watch for that. Watch for that aha moment. When we have Cazimi, sometimes we have downloads or something that was missing shows up. I personally like to use Cazimis. Prior to the Cazimi, I look at what house it's going to be in, and I just kind of like, make a mental note to kind of meditate on that day and tell Mercury yo, give me the sign that I need to know about this particular area of my life. So look at where Libra is, because it may be that it's giving you some kind of inside information of the conversation you need to have, the idea that you need to jot down, that can be helpful, but also in how to best tackle this issue with Pluto, because it's attacking Pluto. It's squaring from the right hand side, and you'll see this in about 6 to 8 weeks time unfold. Okay, so like I said, Venus is the dispositor. There's this mutual reception. So where the Sun-Mercury conjunction is saying, hey, we're getting some information about relationships, or we're having some kind of, discussion about balance and fairness. Venus in Virgo is like, yeah, we're having problems because this isn't working for me, or I'm not getting paid enough, or this doesn't feel good. Venus in Virgo, it wants to help. It wants to fix things. But the problem that I've had with this eclipse that we had in Libra is that Venus is 12th house to the Sun. Guys, this means that there's some stuff going on that's about to be revealed that we don't see yet, that's affecting Virgo-related things. Jobs, job numbers. These job numbers that are coming out are they're fucking bullshit. I'm sorry, but you're going to see that a lot of the jobs, if you go and look at the job numbers here in the States, they're creating government jobs, and you're seeing a drop of full-time positions. You're seeing, there's jobs that have been created. Yeah, but they're part-time jobs because people are trying to take part-time jobs to be able to make up for what's going on. We're also going to see, I think, with Venus going through the sign as it eventually opposes Neptune, that there are some real issues that we're about to find out about the healthcare system, and also staffing shortages that I think we're going to see with nurses, and some scheduling issues as well. Venus deals with pharmaceuticals, so it can also be about issues revolving around supplies and shortages also. I think of welfare, Venus in Virgo. I think of people who are on Social Security. and whether or not they're getting the necessary benefits that they've been promised. So then we're going to take this to the 21st. And this is going to be, is there anything else on the 20th? No, not really. Other than the fact that you're going to see the square. Okay, so on the 20th, on Friday, then we see the moon in Capricorn and Mercury comes into a square with Pluto. Intense conversations, penetrating discussions, spying, looking at things, being able to uncover stuff. So I could definitely see a lot of the conflict coming up in relationships stem from somebody going like, well, you told me this and you did that, So that can come up here, especially in a Gemini degree. 27 is about phones, stuff that you see on social media. It's about emails. The reason why I called this them's fighting words, I was meditating on the notes and I was like, I just kept thinking of like a Western movie with like cowboys and like two people who are, exchanging threatening words before they like pull out their pistol and they get involved in like a shootout, in the middle of like a square. But that's really what this looks like. It's about where communication can escalate to the point where if we don't find diplomacy and if we're not able to really kind of tame things a little bit, things can get out of hand. And so the Mercury square Pluto is where things actually start to get out of hand, where we see issues with communication and potentially war, violence, other things can ensue from this. So this is starting in the morning of the 20th. And then we're going to start to see the sun come into the square with Pluto. So this will also be on the 20th. And the sun square Pluto, we see themes revolving around corruption and business, or corruption in this case in relationships and people politicking and who's backing who. I think for me the big issue is where people are going to start kind of realizing and recognizing that who or what that they thought had their back may not. And something that's been coming up for me a lot with clients, and I've been just observing, I was listening to, my husband was showing me one of Lex Friedman's podcasts on relationships, and they did like a 3 or 4 hour interview between him and a divorce lawyer. It was like really interesting to like listen to him talk about relationships and relationship breakdown and like why people get divorced and like what happens and his perspective on relationships. Because the more that you listen to him, the more that you realize like he's a human. He's not just some like scummy, courtroom lawyer. But what was most interesting to me is my husband was saying like how he would observe how people would like talk about their spouses. And I look at Sun conjunct Mercury in Libra, which is supposed to be about really focusing on relaying messages to partners and supporting partners and where you're a team and maybe even building each other up. But the square to Pluto is going to show where that may not necessarily be going on, and that there can be some confrontational communication or kind of talking badly about somebody or tearing somebody down, which could do just as much damage in a relationship. Words have the ability to do damage this week. You'll see this even more when Mercury goes into Scorpio. But this gets me thinking about, how are you talking about your partnerships? Not just in front of them, behind their back. And are you being the partner that you want to be out in the world? Are you doing your due diligence to make sure that you're supporting, your business partner, your client, your sibling, your best friend, your spouse? Are you thinking, bad things? Are you saying things behind their back? Because for me, this really indicates that there can be some issues that come up in relationships because of the telephone game, or some things that, people are prying out of cell phones or prying out of people, or people get in the midst of, an argument or a conflict and they say stuff that just perhaps can't be taken back. That is in the skies on the 20th. And it's a big piece of the puzzle where maybe there is some conflict and there is an argument, and then boom, somebody comes out with it and they say what they say. Why they've been having resentment, or why they haven't been communicating, and maybe they've been, indifferent or passive aggressive. So watch for that on the 20th. We're going to see the Sun and Mercury really square in the late afternoon. And then the moon's going to continue to keep going through Capricorn, where, it's having to do the emotional labor. trining Venus earlier in the day, trining Jupiter. So there is the opportunity to get down to business and communicate and talk about, I think, you know, work, scheduling. I look at this and I go, be about the solution, not about the problem. Because if we get too fixated on the problem, on the blaming, on the he said, she said, we're not going to be able to actually reap the benefits of the moon creating this fixed earth trine, where we can go, okay, rather than complaining about it, let's fix it. Let's do the work, right? So then the moon's going to keep moving through Capricorn. That's going to be on the 20th, going into the 21st, which will be Saturday. And Saturday, things get a little intense here. We're starting to see planets in the late degrees of the cardinal signs. If you guys remember, I'm going to keep referencing that 29-degree solar eclipse in Aries in the spring. As we start to see planets come to the 28, 29 degrees, it's reactivating that point. So look at this, the Cazimi continues. So you guys are still kind of getting this into the 21st. Now the Sun-Mercury conjunction is in 28 degrees. And we're going to see the moon trine Uranus in the afternoon. Mercury hits 29. The moon is going to hit 27. So in the evening, moon conjuncts Pluto. So we're moving through some intense emotional vibes. There's a lot changing out in the world going on with, you know, top-down structures, government structures, and it's factoring in this square. Not so crazy about Saturday night. This does not feel like a fun date night to me. This feels like there is a lot of intensity, and one of the best things that I think we can do is to be trying to diffuse conflict with other people, not be trying to kind of strong arm situations and relationships. We do start to see the sweetness of Venus trine Jupiter, which is great, but we've got Jupiter retrograde, we've got, you know, Venus in Virgo at 12 degrees. You guys are going to see the 12 degree, 24 degree themes a lot this week, which is a dissolving, a breaking down. And I'm of the frame of mind that, like, not all Jupiter trines are created equal. You can have a trine energy, which is the energy of Jupiter, which is free flowing, but if it's trining a planet that's going through, you know, a sign that it doesn't perform as well in, it's just quickly helping you with the process of kind of breaking something down and flushing something out, right? Especially considering, like I said, Mercury is somehow connected to this Venus, and we're going to watch Mercury and the Sun come into a square with Pluto. So there's still more disharmony in partnerships and unfairness and kind of working through power struggles still playing out on the 21st. I mean, I think the phrase of the week is going to be, that's not fair. That's not legal. You know, this isn't what we agreed on. This was not the plan. And you're going to see some people who are going to go tough shit because the Moon-Pluto conjunction is going to be, well, you know, I changed my mind, or this is how it's going to go, or your boss calling you being like, you know, this is what's happening. This is what we need from you. I saw, like, I think it was like this last week or two, like, you guys see that interview that Candace Owens did? You may not like her, that's fine. I'm kind of neutral on her personally, even though she's another Candace. But she was, I guess, like taking questions at like a college, and somebody was asking her how she felt about like being considered a threat to people within the trans movement, just physically being there. And her response was hilarious because she was so quick to be like, life's tough, get a helmet. Right? So perfect for Mars and Scorpio, but also I think for some of the transits this week, I feel like that's what some people are, that's going to be some people's kind of like demeanor, right? Because that North Node in Aries is literally about the head, about being headstrong, or, you know, charging head first into situations, or being hard-headed. But I think that we're going to start to see where relationships are kind of unraveling in a way, because people are so acutely aware now of the North Node. We're in the 6-month polarity point to those solar eclipses in Aries, which is, I am doing this for myself. This is my goal. This is what I'm doing. And now when you change the dynamic and you start focusing on what your goals are, or you start standing your ground, or you start really going after what you want, it changes relationships, right? And guess what? Some people don't like when the rules of the game have changed. So there is going to be inevitable, you know, a need to kind of readjust relationships or make relationship changes. And I think some people are going to go, well, that's not how things have always been. To which you're probably going to say, well, life's tough, get a helmet. I guess that's where I was going with this. Gotta love Mars in Scorpio. I think that that's really the only saving grace this week, is that if we are willing to, go into situations or topics, or be finally willing to do the work that we've been afraid to do, it does help us better navigate some of this kind of mounting pressure that we have with authority figures, or with our career, or with just like the state of the world. So you'll see that Venus trine Jupiter. Yes, it's sweet, but I don't really subscribe to that being all that sweet, you guys. I'm sorry. I know that other astrologers are going to say differently, but I'm not a fan of that. We'll see. Could that be sweet for some people? Sure. If you have like a natal Venus that is around 12 degrees, or a natal Jupiter that's around 12 degrees of the earth signs, maybe. But collectively, not a fan. Then on the 22nd, early in the morning, we're going to see Mercury enter into Scorpio, and Mercury and Mars are in Scorpio. So get ready to start doing your obsessive research. We see the moon go into Aquarius. That's going to be early morning on Sunday. And immediately, first thing in the morning, we start seeing the moon coming into a square with Mercury and Mars. More fighting words. When the moon's in Aquarius, we need independence. We want to, be with friends. We want to focus on our goals. We want to have a good time. We're going to have to wait until the moon comes out of a square with Mars. So I don't really feel like the morning of Sunday is all that friendly. It seems like a little challenging. So when the moon starts coming out of a square with Mars, which is at 7 degrees, so it does seem challenging with friends or relationships, or maybe making plans, then we see the moon come into 8-9 degrees in the evening. So Sunday night, a little bit easier to navigate. Okay, so we've also got in the background, Mercury is in a trine to Saturn. Okay, that's good news for Venus, because now it's kind of like, okay, this thing changed, we made the correction, we created the boundary, we're working through it, and that is helpful for Venus. And then we're also going to see the moon will come into a square with Jupiter. Stretching it a little bit here, but we've got a moon in the fixed degrees, Jupiter, and we've got Mars. So something about the moon creating this fixed T-square between Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter is significant. I am looking at this and going like, oh, is there going to be a protest? Maybe. Is there going to be people who are kind of banding together and focusing on, community services or some kind of community movement? Possibly. The sun hits 29 degrees, which is preparing to take us into what will inevitably be Scorpio season, but we won't actually see that into the 23rd. So basically Saturday night, Sunday morning, little challenging. And as we get into the video next week, we'll talk about Scorpio season. For me, I keep looking at, the Mercury-Mars ingress, and eventually you guys will see in November that those two planets will come into conjunction. I think it's going to be like around 12 degrees. So this is also indicating like our mind, right? Mercury is really focused on intensity, passion, secrets, things that might be hidden, or kind of like requiring a lot of effort. And then Mars is about our drive and our desire. So once we get into Scorpio season, Mercury, Mars, and the sun, people are going to be really focusing on intensity, emotions, anger. Scorpio can also be about grudges and revenge and things revolving around, some challenging emotions and feelings that Scorpio energy carries. My recommendation is find something to keep the mind stimulated this week. Scorpio is a sign that deals with like esoteric and metaphysical topics. If you're somebody who's like really into that stuff, or maybe you're into, learning more about it, especially divination, this would be a wonderful time with some of the trines to Saturn that you set aside some time to be like, I'm going to go and read a book on tarot, or I'm going to spend an hour, learning a little bit more about astrology, or I'm going to be learning about meditation or past lives or yoga, because I could see that combination between Scorpio and Pisces being these topics. Like I said, it's going to be a rather intense week ahead. I did want to talk to you guys a little bit and give you some insights into what's going on with this Cazimi for each of the 12 signs. Pull some cards and let you guys know what I see coming. So let's do that. And as a reminder, this is going to be the 12 sign predictions for the Sun Mercury Cazimi in Libra. We're going to look at how it's squaring Pluto and then Mercury's ingress into Scorpio and what I see for you. I'm a Western astrologer. That is what I practice. So I'm going to be using Western astrology with the whole sign housing method. If you're Placidus, that's totally cool. You're just going to want to listen for where there is 26 degrees of Libra in your chart. You might have to listen to more than one sign. You can also listen to your progress chart if that's what interests you the most. And as a reminder, 24 to 28 degrees of Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, or personal planets are going to be feeling this, along with Gemini and Virgo risings. All right, so let's look at the Cazimi point here. All right, so I'm going to start with obviously my Aries and Aries risings. What's going on, guys? You're going to be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi. This will be taking place in the sign of Libra, okay? So you're going to have the Cazimi setting up in your 7th house. So this is going to bring sudden insights into relationships, communication, somebody who might call you or reach out to you or text you. Mercury rules your natal 3rd as well as your 6th house. So it is possible that there can be some kind of like changing of a meeting or changing in regards to travel or a change with like scheduling. You might have a sudden conversation with a sibling or a neighbor and somebody who lets you in on something or talks to you about, their relationship to you. Now, this is going to come into a square with Pluto, so it definitely does seem like maybe it's going to be some intense words that you're having with a coworker about your schedule or routine. Maybe there is like a challenging email or text message that you get about, who's responsible for what. Equally, this is your house of committed relationships. So there can be intense exchanges that you can have with spouses, romantic partners, business partners as well. And you want to watch for the power struggles that might kind of come about who is in charge or who is responsible for this, that, or the other. And then you're going to see Mercury drop into your 8th house, where it is going to be a time where you're making some transformations in regards to how you communicate and also your joint resources. Wow, the card that I get for you is the 10 of Coins. To be honest with you, so much strength with Mars going into your 8th house. I think that the next couple of weeks is going to be a lot of being like, this is what you owe me, okay? And whether this is getting refunded for something or reimbursed for something or getting something paid to you that's owed to you and having to kind of have a heart-to-heart conversation with somebody being like, look, I need this from you physically or financially or emotionally. 10 of Coins is about money. It is about fulfillment. It is about long-term goals and planning when it comes to your resources and getting what you've worked hard for. So I think about Mars going into the 8th house and then Mercury going into the 8th house. And it might mean that, you have a significant conversation with somebody about some kind of long-term financial planning and news probably that's going to be coming around the eclipse at the end of this month about seeing some kind of significant payment or lump sum maybe kind of come in. Good luck. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You are going to be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi. This will be taking place in your natal 6th house. So this is revealing sudden insights into your health and also your schedule. Libra can quite literally be about coworkers. It can be about your flexibility when it comes to working with other people. It can also be about changes in regards to your health. The Sun rules your 4th house of home, and Mercury has connections to your values and also your children or what you love. So I look at this and I go, there's something that's emerging about changes with your health or your schedule or something in regards to your home or your family. It is possible that this is a time where, you're trying to kind of remedy or fix something around the house. There can definitely be some stuff that can be coming up where you're feeling like some relationships are kind of out of balance and you need to address the fact that you need more. Mercury, just shortly after this Cazimi, will drop into the 7th house, which is about relationships. Now, Mercury and Mars are going to be in the 7th house, and it's going to be a lot of like communicating and working with and talking to clients, or it can be about your romantic partnerships and there being a lot more activity here. You'll see in November with some of the oppositions that there's going to be a lot of back and forth with another person about your resources or your values. And my advice is with the Cazimi, if you get some kind of indication from an accountant, or if you get some kind of indication from a health practitioner or from a coworker that's like, hey, something's missing here or something's off or we need to tweak this thing, like really pay attention for that message, because it can help you avoid potential challenges or conflict down the road when it comes to scheduling, organization, data, or resources. Check all of your numbers, Taurus. There can be some things that can be kind of off where other people can catch it and get agitated, or it can mean that, because you're not double or triple checking something, somebody is kind of getting away with something that belongs to you. The card that I get for you is the 8 of Swords, which is feeling like I'm stuck. How do I move through this thing? I need help. Stuck is a state of mind with this card. But the other thing I would say is that, you got an eclipse coming in your 1st house, and you've got this eclipse that just took place in your 6th house. For some of you guys, this is health-related matters, right? It can be that you're working through an injury, or you're rehabbing something, or it's taking a little bit of time for you to kind of be on the mend. So 8 of Swords might say that you're in a situation where you feel like you can't get out of, but maybe you do need to be slowing down, or you need to be healing something right now before you're kind of like back at it again. Watch out for getting stuck in a state of mind though. And that can be very much Mercury on the South Node. It's like, oh, I'm never going to be able to figure this out, or I'm never going to get out of this. No, don't tell yourself that. Catch those kind of feelings and make sure you cut them quickly. And learn how to ask for help, because so much of the transits in your 6th and your 7th house are about finding the people who can support you when you're in need. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You'll be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi in your natal 5th house. Obviously, this is important for you, Gemini, because Mercury rules your chart. Thankfully, this conjunction is taking place in a fellow sister air sign. So it is friendly. It does make positive aspects to your sun, moon, or rising, especially if you're in the late degrees of Gemini. Now, wherever Mercury goes, that's where you are. So it could be you're the person who's relaying information. It could mean that you have some kind of breakthrough or some kind of creative something that kind of comes through. A Cazimi in this part of the chart is about sudden insights into happiness, your love life, creativity, or children. Now, the sun rules the 3rd house, so it does look like this is some kind of beginning process of, feeling inspired and writing something, or maybe you're telling somebody I love you, or maybe there's some big thing that happens in regards to your children when it comes to speaking, or maybe like writing or sharing. It also can be a time where you're really focusing on something that makes your heart sing. Now, those of you guys who are single and ready to mingle, you could meet somebody while you're on a road trip or you're out of town. You could meet somebody online. That's possible as well. Or like at a theater, or maybe even at a bar. That could be the 5th house. The challenge is that Mercury is coming into a square with Pluto. So it can be about taking chances and taking chances in love, taking chances creatively. It can also be about some temptation when it comes to sexual or financial desires that kind of come up. Shortly after this Cazimi, Mercury is going to drop into the 6th house, where it's going to be there with Mars, which means you're focusing on health, habits, and routine. This might mean that you're focusing on what you can detox, cut out, purge, clear out. And you have a lot of work to do, because this is all going to trine Saturn in your 10th house. My advice is have fun now before this ingress starts. Enjoy yourself. Get out there. If you want to meet somebody, it's very possible. And if you're feeling inspired to start some kind of creative project, or you have a chance meeting or encounter with somebody, it could be love. It is very possible. The card that I got for you is the Three of Wands. I love that, especially because of the connection to the third house. It's very Three of Wands with Leo being there. This is about making a plan and sticking to it and being like, I'm going to go on this adventure. Maybe venture off into a different part of town than you're used to going to this week. It might mean that, you're going to go and try a bar or a restaurant, or you're going to go to a show or do something outside of your usual kind of hangouts, making it more so likely for you to have a good time, but B, to potentially meet somebody. And this is also about kind of like choosing something that you haven't experienced before. Could be a new hobby even, and it might be something that you do with another person, right? So I think of like Venus being in the fourth house and it rules all of this. Are you going and doing something with a sibling or a relative? That could be a new hobby that you could potentially enjoy. I think so. Good luck. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You're going to be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi that's going to be taking place in your natal fourth house of Libra. Pay special attention, my Cancer and Cancer risings, especially if you're anywhere around these degrees, 24 to 28 degrees. You're going to be experiencing a pretty potent square in your chart. So events around the home, communication with relatives, with roommates, are very, very important, especially because Mercury connects to your third house. So this can be conversations with neighbors, siblings, things that come in the mail or documents. And Mercury has connections to your 12th house of what is hidden or you don't see coming. All right, so when you have this Cazimi where the Sun and Mercury come into conjunction, it looks like it's going to be a conversation revolving around home and home expenses, or things revolving around family and money. So this is going to be providing some sudden insight into relationships, maybe with people who are within the home or within the family, or relationships from the past, because the fourth house represents the past. What's interesting is that this is building and coming into a square with Pluto. So those of you guys who are partnered, you're in a relationship, it can represent where there is some kind of change or transformation, or some kind of breakdown that's going on within the home, or rearranging within the home, causing some tension with a relationship with a partner or with a roommate. It does seem to me like maybe you're feeling like you need some help with changes going on at home, and you're trying to figure out, how to ask for help. And some of you guys are having changes in relationships, which is prompting this. Regardless, watch the way that you communicate with home and family or roommates. There can definitely be some power struggles going on, and some challenges revolving around either relationships to your family, or where relationships and family dynamics are kind of, getting into a bit of a tiff. But I think that there can be something that went missing, that you lost, that you find at home. So if you're missing an ID or a document, or if a relative is missing something, it might turn up at your house, or maybe you help them find it. The card that I get is the Nine of Swords. Not surprised by this. It does make me feel like some of you guys might be experiencing some kind of like stressful situation at home, and you're kind of like, what can I do about this? Like, what can I do? Know that the solar eclipse that we just had was in a square to your sign. And so if you have a square during an eclipse or an opposition, it means that it's bringing about events that, quite frankly, you don't really have a lot of control over. So whatever news you get about your home, your living situation, a relative, a neighbor, it's out of your control. Stressing about it isn't going to fix the problem. The solution, I think, is really working with Mercury going into the fifth house, trining your sign, is going to be about being able to communicate and speak from the heart, and try to find the means to be able to communicate with other people in a clear and emotional manner. Watch for stress and any issues that's going to be creating some sleeplessness, because Nine of Swords can definitely do that. Good luck. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You're going to be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi taking place in Libra in your natal third house. Well, for you, Leo, this is going to be revealing sudden insights into communication, especially with partners, new potential opportunities to kind of band together with another person. It means that you might be issued some kind of contract, or maybe you're negotiating a move or a new job, or having a heart-to-heart in a relationship. Could be a sibling, or it could be a romantic partner. Equally, there can be some like unexpected expense that can come up involving travel or a vehicle. Now, Mercury rules your second house of money, resources, and personal investments, and your 11th house of goals. So I'm wondering, like, are you realizing that it's a goal of yours to travel somewhere, to learn something, to potentially, make a change in your living situation? The third house is movement. Now, you are the sun. So when the sun and Mercury come together, you're becoming aware of what it is that you value and what it is that you want to possess. So you might find the car that you've been wanting to buy. You might find the perfect house that you've been, looking for to rent, or you might have a conversation where somebody kind of offers you something. I think it's in the skies to start having conversations either around home or movement, because there's so much action that's going on in your third and your fourth house. It's very likely that this is how this manifests. Now, just shortly after, we have this Cazimi, which is also in a square to Pluto, which is creating some scheduling issues, I think. So it's like, I want to move, or I want to have a conversation with somebody, but it's never the right time. Or, there's something going on in the vehicle. I need to kind of get it fixed, but it's causing some issues with me being able to go to work or get things done. Scheduling issues. Mercury will drop into your fourth house, which is about home and family. So it does mean that there can be some more time with family, or rearranging things pertaining to home and family or your house. So I get the Hierophant for you guys, which is interesting because I think that is touching on Taurus. And I think it's touching on the fact that, you're having this eclipse here at the end of the month, and there's some really big career things on the horizon for you. But it may be as a result of making some changes in either how you're living or how you're communicating and thinking. I do think that what's interesting is, as soon as Mercury goes into the fourth house with Mars, you need something to do. You need to be putting things together, or you need to be boxing things, or reorganizing things, or fixing things, or tweaking things. And it's really highlighting, with all these planets going into your fourth house, the importance of what's going on within your home. You're going to feel a little stretched between the Taurus area of your chart, which is going to be more career related. And you'll see that around the eclipse at the end of the month. So really what I think it's talking about is your status in the world. How do you want people to see you? How do you want to be known? What do you want your career title to be? How do you want people to see you in regards to your public image? Because the Hierophant is connected to Taurus, and Taurus is more traditional, it's practical, it's solid, it's stable. It's also representing things that are productive. So there's a lot of having to kind of get a lot of things done in this next month. And I think this is highlighting where talking about your schedule and being able to focus on being a team player with other people can make all of these things possible. Good luck, Leo. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You'll be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Libra in your second house. Now, this is important because you're ruled by Mercury. So wherever Mercury goes, it affects you. The Cazimi is positive, even though not everybody is going to think so. This is some information that needs to come out. So when I see the Sun and Mercury coming into conjunction in your second house, it tells me that this is a really significant moment where you realize something about your finances or your values. So this will be providing sudden insight into these topics. Now, Mercury rules you, so your actions, your body, and the 10th house, career, and something about what you can control. So there's a number of ways that this can play out. One is you might receive some information about some kind of change going on when it comes to your resources and your job. 2, it also might be a time where you're like, you know what, I gotta let this thing go. I gotta let this person go. The squares to Pluto are things that are not necessarily helpful for your heart. So this can be something you're eating, or this can be a relationship you're holding on to. This can be an object from your childhood. This can be a gift maybe that an ex-partner gave you. And you might realize, like, I got to let this thing go. I can't possess this anymore because it's not good for my heart space. This is the square that you have to Pluto. Now, just shortly after this, you're going to see Mercury go into your third house where Mars is as well. And the mind's going to speed up here. You're also going to be a little bit more busy, kind of running around, getting errands done. Some of you guys might be considering moving or traveling. And Mars makes me wonder if there is going to be some change or transformation to either your vehicles or your gadgets. Some of you guys might be trying to refinance something. Some of you guys might be exchanging something, selling something, buying something new. But for the most part, I think the Cazimi for you is quite powerful because it's going to kind of give you that nudge from the universe that's like, it's okay to let this thing go. Like, you don't have to hold on to this anymore. And it can really encourage you to kind of break away from something that does not make you feel fulfilled. Especially because the sun rules your 12th house. So you're like, it's time for me to release this. The card that I get for you is the moon. Which I feel like you're really going to feel like on the 21st when the moon fully goes into Capricorn and it conjuncts Pluto and it squares. Like, for you, Virgo, that's the kill shot. That's where it's going to be where you're like this thing or this person or, you know, this habit doesn't make me like feel good anymore. Like, I got to let it go. So you can wait until the moon triggers that. You can also really pay attention to what has happened with the eclipses. You had the first one in the second house, which is setting the stage for releasing one way of making money or like letting go some kind of resource. But the second one's going to be in your 9th house in a sister sign conjunct Jupiter. So for what you're willing to release and let go of, there's a lot more that you have to receive. The moon also talks about our subconscious desires and drives and things that we're not even aware of that come from our subconscious. So I think with the sun being connected to the 12th house, it's like you may not realize that you're hoarding a group of things or that you're collecting too many things or that you have a bunch of stuff, you know, that you no longer kind of resonate with. You might have like a lot of clothes in your closet, or you might have like a bunch of stuff in your storage space or in, you know, your attic that you're like, I need to get rid of these things. And so I think this is about clearing things out and maybe the emotional or psychological effect that it has on you, you know, doing this particular purge. Good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You will be experiencing the Sun Mercury Cazimi taking place in your natal first house. So it's in your sign. This will be at 26 degrees. So if you have any placements around 24 to 28 degrees, it'll affect you the most. Obviously pretty potent for you, Libra, because it's in your sign. You know, I think about last year, there was a Mercury retrograde that started in Libra and it retrograded back to Virgo. And the Cazimi point was at 0 degrees of Libra. So me being a Libra rising at 0 degrees, I experienced it right on my ascendant, and it was pretty cool because I had like a lot of downloads about some stuff. I was like really in tune that day with some things that I needed to kind of change. So if you happen to have your degrees around that, pay attention, maybe keep a notebook with you, jot down some notes, take some time to meditate. This is going to give you some sudden insight into yourself or your body. Now look, you had a solar eclipse on your ascendant. How are you feeling? What's going on? Are you having an identity crisis? What are you releasing? What are you letting go of? I don't know about you guys, but it's been weird. I've had some of the strangest dreams the last week. It is so bizarre. I had a dream that I shaved my head. I think I told you guys that. I had a dream that like I was planning a wedding for somebody else, and then I had a dream that like my teeth fell out. And coincidentally, a lot of similar themes for all of these dreams, right? Mercury rules the 12th house. It's like, oh, something is ending, something new is emerging, something's dying off, you got to let something go. You're like, okay, I've had enough dream interpretation for 1 week. And I think that the Sun Mercury Cazimi is like, well, what have you intuitively been feeling is coming? And like that feeling that you've been having, you might be like, oh, here it comes, especially right when the Sun and Mercury come into conjunction, because you're becoming aware of something about yourself, some kind of personal goal that you have for yourself. You're also going to see these two planets come into a square with Pluto. So I can just put it simply by saying, watch out for family drama. This is brewing this week in your chart, something where there is some kind of home dynamic or family dynamic or issue with a parent that's going to come up, where these planets are going to conjunct the South Node, where you're like, I got to let go and let God. It's going to oppose the South Node Chiron, which means you're no longer choosing to feel victimized within some of these issues within your relationships, or you're not letting it play out in your relationships, and it's going to square Pluto. Especially watch for when the Sun-Pluto square comes through. It might be a really difficult conversation you have with a family member or a relative. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, and it's about not holding on to some of this stuff. Mercury rules your 12th and your 9th house, so it can also be about traveling. It can also be about challenges revolving around like letting go of self-sabotaging tendencies. And then just after this, Mercury is going to move into your 2nd house. You're going to have Mercury and Mars in your 2nd, which is going to represent like focusing on money, resourcefulness, like what you're able to drum up, like what you're, consuming, like what, spending power you have. The card they get for you is the 5 of Wands, which means like, them's fighting words. It is very likely that there's going to be some conflict. And I think that that's just kind of in the skies right now with all of the eclipses that are going on in your sign, because you're changing and it's about how that's affecting your relationships. But 5 of Wands for me is about like laying your weapon down and being like, I'm not going to have combativeness like this. Like, I'm not doing this. And it's not that you're being dismissive, it's just that you're choosing not to fall into the same old patterns of maybe how you were preconditioned to respond to things. Watch for this. I do feel like it can represent where there's some challenges in regards to, kind of working with other people and being able to kind of get things done. And the best thing you can do is like lay your weapon down. Venus is in your 12th house, so it's really important for you to be kind of lying low throughout these times. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You will be experiencing a Sun-Mercury Cazimi taking place. This will be in your natal 12th house. Ooh, that's pretty spooky, Scorpio. All right, so you've got like the Sun-Mercury Cazimi building in the 12th house, which is private, subconscious, and it's about things kind of flushing out. Well, this is about things coming to sudden insight, maybe connected to a dream, maybe it's connected to a conversation you have when you're going to bed with your partner, maybe it's about some kind of information that's being revealed to you in a secret way. Mercury rules your 8th house of joint finances and intimacy and merger, and the 11th house, which deals with friends, goals, and networks. So it's possible that you can get sucked into some secret conversation about other people. It's also possible that there can be a bit of a back and forth that you're having with somebody secretly, and it can cause some conflict within a relationship to another person. It might mean that you've got somebody who's getting ready to drop some information on you out of the blue that you didn't see coming. Obviously, my eye is not just on the Cazimi, where you're clearing out some kind of relationship karma and finally like letting something or someone go, but the square to Pluto, because you're ruled by Pluto. So this tells me where, maybe you need time alone right now to like reflect and release things. And maybe that means you need to be spending time reading in a bedroom, from another person. Maybe that means that, you need more rest and recuperation and you're feeling overstimulated and you don't want to talk. All these planets behind your ascendant right now represent that this is like the big cosmic purge before you go into your birthday season. And when these two planets square Pluto, it means that you might feel like somebody is prying or somebody's putting the pressure on you before you're feeling comfortable, or maybe you're ready to talk about something. Mars is in your sign, so you're probably feeling a little spicy. And it's important to be moving the body around because you can be kind of, confrontational with Mars there. Cuts, burns, accidents are more possible as well. Mars is one of your ruling planets, but it is a malefic. And the one positive thing you have this week is that Mars and Saturn are in a trine. So you're passionate about the things that you love. You're protective of your creative, projects, of your children, of your romantic partners. You're feeling very motivated by love, creativity. But yeah, some drama here, especially with Scorpios, about things that have been said in the past that are coming back up again, or secret communications where you're hiding something from someone or vice versa. Ooh, could be a little sticky. The card that I get for you is the Empress, which is interesting because this is about growth and life and new things. Could it be that there's a conversation that you're having about, your mother or your upbringing or your family? Maybe. I definitely feel like some of the oppositions that we're going to be seeing in this next month are going to be colorful because it is going to be opposing your fourth house lord, Uranus. This can also mean that there's themes coming up revolving around like self-love, nurturing, taking care of yourself. After all, Venus is the dispositor of all these planets and it's in the 11th. So there's some goals that are coming up revolving around self-care, and it's making positive aspects to your 7th. So it's about talking to your partner about, or partners, family members, friends, spouses, about your goals and how to like make them a reality, right? My advice is pay attention to this. So this makes me feel like you got to take care of you first, and you need to be focusing on what you're nurturing for yourself first. And if family stuff comes up, then it comes up. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I don't really foresee that being the case until next month. Good luck. We got Sag and Sag rising. You will be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Libra. This will be taking place in your 11th house of friends, networks, and goals. So there's some sudden insight revolving around these topics that are going to come up. Mercury rules relationships and career. So it is possible that you're doing some networking, you're meeting some people that can help further your relationships or your professional life. The conjunction to the sun makes me feel like some of you guys might be connecting with friends from the past, or maybe traveling or going to social events. And having chance meetings with other people. Friends might set you up with somebody if you're single, so definitely going out and socializing is really strong because it can bring either an alliance, a new client, or a romantic relationship. The challenge is that when this Cazimi is setting up, it's coming into a square with Pluto. So it almost feels like there's like overdoing it with socializing and the effects that it has on your spending, or the effects that this has maybe on what you're eating, or your kind of daily routine habits might be. I could see this as being like a little bit of like overly indulging, and like, yeah, the effects that it has on your pocketbook. There's also some challenges, that can come about in regards to a friendship and, an exchange of words that you have with another person, and whether or not you're realizing that somebody's not wanting to fix the dynamic and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to let this go. So that can definitely take a swipe at your self-esteem with the squares to Pluto in your 2nd, where you're like, we just had a misunderstanding. Like, what's the deal? Why is there like a friendship breakup, or like, why is this falling apart? And it can have you kind of doubting yourself. So you want to watch for that as well. Shortly after the Cazimi, you're going to see Mercury move into the 12th house, and Mars is there as well. So it can mean that there is a sense of like needing more privacy, needing more alone time, having issues with sleeping, maybe feeling a little restless. But this is wonderful for doing work behind the scenes, preparing for, some career projects, or maybe doing some traveling to a foreign place. Some private time maybe that you're having with a partner as well, because Mercury is going to be in the 12th house. Thankfully, though, Libra is a friendly sign for Sagittarius, so I do see it being more so positive for you. And I'm wondering if this is going to be more revolving around some kind of travel that you're either planning or doing. The card that I get is the King of Pentacles. I think this is about like having your mind on your money and your money on your mind. This could quite literally be about some interaction that you have with like a Virgo or a Capricorn or a Taurus. I think that, this is like learning also not to compare yourself to other people, being more focused and like on your own when it comes to what you're creating, what you're developing, what you're bringing in terms of your resources, and not comparing yourself to other people. This can be about channeling this like inner masculine energy about, your financial situation, and feeling a little bit more independent and like proud of what you've been able to achieve. I do think you're going to benefit the Venus-Jupiter trine this month because Jupiter rules your sign. So you might find that the pieces are kind of falling into place. And for some people, it can mean that, you know, friends aren't really as understanding because you've got a lot going on, or you're busy, or there's a lot on your plate. And there can be a situation where not everybody is cheering for you, or not everybody is understanding that, you know, your success comes at a cost. So you might be having some issues feeling supported by some people. Okay. Good luck. I hope that that's helpful. It definitely looks good when it comes to business, that's for sure. All right, so we've got Capricorn and Cap rising. You are going to be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi in Libra in your natal 10th house of career. So this is important because this is about sudden insights coming up in regards to work, career status, something about your schedule or employees on the job. If you happen to be a Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, let's say 26 to 28 degrees, pay attention. It is going to feel like a bit of a pinch. Pluto is going to be the focal point of this square. And it's all going to be about how you respond to something, how you react to something that might be kind of coming out at work. Personally, I feel like because Mercury has connections to the 9th and the 6th house, it could be like legal matters and work. It could be changes going on with your schedule and traveling and work. It can mean also that there is like a memo or some kind of email or something that comes out, or a meeting where you find out that somebody's getting ready to retire, or that somebody's stepping down, or that there's going to be changes with staff. Some Capricorn risings will be hearing about there being layoffs at work. That will happen. But I think that for you, the squares to Pluto is about how you respond to that, how you're responding to things changing. Maybe some of you guys are really tapping into your North Node right now, and you're like, I want to be working at home, or I have a home business, or I'm getting involved in property or interior design, or I'm relocating. So I'm, finally telling everybody at work that I quit, right? That can be coming up as well. But there's definitely some insight at work that's getting ready to be revealed, and you want to be mindful of how you respond to this, especially on the 21st. Now, after this Cazimi, Mercury and Mars fall into the 11th house, which means you're really focusing more on maybe traveling with friends. It can be connecting with groups. It can be socializing. Maybe it's getting you to really focus on goals. Mars and Mercury are both going to come into trines with Saturn this week. So you're going to see the opportunity to really tap into what your goals are, be talking to other people about that and networking. And it can definitely be, for those of you guys who have a sudden change at work, just very quickly, getting in contact with people who you network with, who might, have a job for you, or they might have some insight into positions that are opening, and it might give you the opportunity to have a lot of meetings and connections with other people. So it definitely pays to have some kind of professional network or friends who are tapped in around the time of this particular Cazimi, whom you can call on. Be mindful, like I said, the squares to Pluto are all about how you're responding to some of these changes, and if you are resisting change in a professional sense at work. The card that I get is the Four of Cups. So for me, this is like not being thrilled, or not feeling considered, or feeling like a little overlooked in a way. For me, the Four of Cups is like, where you're not recognizing what is being offered to you. So you might be like, oh my gosh, somebody's stepping down. Maybe I'm going to, get that position. And then you find out somebody else fills the position, and you're like, what the heck? Like, why was I not considered? So you want to watch for not recognizing or realizing what you do have. Don't get caught up in the negative this week, because this can definitely happen with the squares to Pluto, where some of you may feel disempowered in some way because, something at work didn't play out the way that you wanted it to. I do feel like in the background, this Ace of Cups that's here, right there, that's being offered to him, is about another opportunity. So if a job ends, if a working partnership ends, if a gig ends, it's ending because something else is going to be offered to you. So don't fixate on what's falling apart. Focus on, okay, why has this fallen apart? What is supposed to be offered to me now? Who can assist me and help me through the process of this change? Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You are going to be experiencing the Sun Mercury Cazimi taking place in your natal 9th house. This is in a fellow sister sign. So if you are a Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or rising in the late degrees, let's say 24 to 27, 28 degrees, you are benefiting from this through the form of a trine. And air trines promote information, communication, travel, learning something new. Now, this is about something being revealed in regards to your belief system, or in regards to a creative project, or maybe a trip that's being planned, or maybe your love life. Mercury has connections to your 5th house of love, creativity, and also children. And it also has connections to your 8th house of change and transformation. All right, so when the Cazimi happens, where the Sun, which rules relationships, conjuncts Mercury, it means that there is some kind of information maybe that you get from somebody at a distance. So you might get a message from your kid, you might get a message from your in-laws, 9th house. You might get an email or a document that needs to be signed from a lawyer. It might be when you find out that you're being accepted into a program. It can also be a time where there's some kind of positive news that's coming about in regards to a relationship at a distance. For the most part, it's pretty positive for you. I do feel like the only challenge here is the square to Pluto. And Pluto in the 12th house is about kind of restructuring power behind the scenes. It is about how world events and maybe legal situations are making you view the world. I do think that you can have some very powerful views on what's going on with like war and legality and freedoms, and so you might find that you're really kind of entangled with that. And Sun Mercury conjunction can mean that you're realizing that your beliefs about the world are changing, and about fairness and alliances and balances out in the world as well. Now, shortly after this conjunction, you're going to see Mercury and Mars hang out in your 10th house, where this is very much focusing on business. This is focusing on, connecting with other people, having meetings. It's very get something done in the 10th house, especially because it's all going to be trining Saturn, which is one of your co-rulers. So Mercury and Mars makes me feel like the pace of work is picking up, lots of meetings, things that you have to sign, people that you have to meet. And it's about maintaining some of your commitments when it comes to your professional life, even in spite of the fact that the world feeling a little wonky, or maybe there are some changes going on with traveling. Some of you guys might have been anticipating traveling and you're like, oh, never mind. I don't really, feel so comfortable traveling. I'm going to postpone a trip. That can be coming up here as well. The card that I get for you is the 3 of Swords, which is a very difficult card. I think for the most part, I think this is about disappointment with what's going on out in the world. And maybe the Sun Mercury, the 9th house, is a little bit of like being on your soapbox and wanting to be like, I had faith that, this group of people or this politician or this situation would get better. And, maybe kind of feeling a little disappointed and disheartened about the state of events with what's going on out in the world. The 3 of Swords does represent heartbreak, or needing to move through a heartbreaking situation. And I do feel like for you, the squares to Pluto might be that you discuss this or you feel this privately. You may not be so out front in the open about it. But it can also be about moving through heartbreak. So especially if you're like a later degree Aquarius, you're going to handle this a little bit better, because you're going to be like, you know what, I thought I believed this and I'm disappointed, but like I no longer believe this anymore. And like now my beliefs have shifted. So it's about how you're looking at it and that change of mind with the Mercury on the South Node. Good luck, Aquarius. We've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You will be having a Sun Mercury conjunction taking place in Libra in your natal 8th house. This is all going to be about sudden insights and changes into joint resources, maybe releasing something or someone. Now, Mercury has connections to your 4th house, which is about your home as well as your family or your roots, and your 7th house, which is all about relationships with other people. So the Sun-Mercury conjunction, I believe, is all about having some kind of conversation with a significant other, a partner, maybe a family member, about what they can or cannot provide you financially or emotionally. Now, it does seem like this does tie in somehow to plans revolving around your home or your living situation. I know you guys have been kind of going through the ringer, Mercury retrograde in your 7th, Venus opposition to Saturn. So a lot of you guys are kind of at a turning point in relationships with other people where you're trying to decide whether or not you're going to cut something off, or if you're going to end something, or if something can be fixed. I would really look out for somebody sharing with you some kind of change that they've had in regards to their financial situation, or maybe, you know, it's about whether or not they want to stay in a relationship or a partnership. I do feel like this is a little uncomfortable because it is quincunxing Neptune. So you may feel like somebody hits you with a conversation you didn't see coming, or they, you know, let you in on something in regards to their finances, or they let you in on something in regards to their job, or, you know, their mental health, that you're like, wait, what? Why didn't you tell me this? And it may kind of catch you off guard. Now, this will be squaring Pluto, which is in your 11th house, which is about friends and goals. So likely, if you're going through some kind of change in a relationship, you may feel like you're questioning whether or not you can share this information with a group of friends or get some support from another person. And you may feel like there is some stuff that's come up in relationships, or some stuff that's come up for you financially that you're like, I don't know how I can even talk to my friends about this because they're going to be extremely judgmental of the situation. And you're questioning whether or not you can let them in on this. So if you're somebody who's gone, you know, time and time again to your friends about having a relationship issue, you may already know that once you relay some of this information that's coming out now, they're going to be like, what are you doing? The other way to look at this is that there are so many things changing in regards to you releasing fears that it's really putting the pressure on you to embrace you know, setting new goals, especially when it comes to your career goals and what you want to be doing out in the world. And so financial themes, or, you know, changes in regards to, you know, cost of living could prompt you through crisis, Pluto, into being like, okay, my goals are changing now. I'm focusing on this. All right, let's see what the cards say. Could definitely see a lot of partnerships being interesting, where partners are like really coming clean in some way. And also Sun Mercury can be a document, or you becoming aware of what somebody is giving you, or what they're doing with their resources, or what's being left to you in some way. The card that I get is the Knight of Pentacles. So it could be financial. You know, this is a financial house. This is other people's money. This can involve a Taurus or a Virgo or a Capricorn. So it can be about somebody relaying some kind of news revolving around money and resources. It can be that some document is coming up from the past revolving around taxes, or you're finally resolving something in regards to a settlement or an insurance matter. That can be coming up here as well. This is about proceeding forward in a cautious manner, right? Mercury and Mars are going into the 9th house, and it's going to start trining Saturn, which means if you've been contemplating separating assets, you know, starting a lawsuit or getting a lawyer, these might be things that you consider doing after kind of, you know, a cautious approach. I do feel like for some of you guys, it's going to be suddenly traveling, or, you know, getting involved in programs, or doing something that might be, you know, taking place in other places. So there can be some kind of awareness or some kind of breakthrough that happens with your finances right before you go. So if you're waiting on, you know, a credit increase, or if you're waiting on a loan, or if you're waiting on some kind of payment, that might be part of what needs to be kind of sorted before you end up traveling or doing some of these things. So it does look like financial news is on the way. Just take your time when it comes to making any decisions about investments or what you may do with this money. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys and giving you some insight into the Cazimi. I know I touched on this in the horoscopes too, so if you guys need more help with some of this transit, you can check that out. I will be back here on Tuesday. We are going to talk all about this lunar eclipse in Taurus. I don't want to keep you guys waiting on a cliffhanger. I just want to get that video out. So we can start talking about how this eclipse is going to be very different than the one that we just had. So those of you guys who are fixed signs, you're probably going to be thrilled to hear that this is the last eclipse in Taurus, and we are fully embracing the Libra, Aries eclipses. We're passing the torch on to them. Make sure that you like, comment, share this video, click the bell button, make sure you subscribe. You guys probably don't know this, but commenting, leaving me a thumbs up, subscribing, all helps with the algorithm of the channel. It makes it possible for me to get paid and be a full-time content creator so I can provide you guys with this content for free. Yes, I know there's commercials. I hear all about it, but it's a give or take. You guys can consider getting YouTube Red if that's something that you don't like. But I try to create as high of quality content for you guys as possible for free. So please support me or other content creators that you like. You guys can donate. You guys can join my memberships. If you can't do that, you can simply share this video or give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So we'll be back here on Tuesday. We're going to talk eclipse. Join me on Friday if you want a live tarot reading. I will be posting that later this week. Enjoy the Cazimi. Obviously, let me know what insights kind of pop up for you. I'm a Libra rising, so I'm waiting for it. This eclipse is in opposition to my moon, so I'm like, I know that it's going to be about me popping off. So I'm gonna lay low over the weekend, and I will report back to you guys on Tuesday and let you know what takes place. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. You guys take care. I'll see all of you very soon.